siege and fall of the Alamo. In early 1836, the Texas Revolution was heating up as Texan settlers fought against Mexico's strict rule. The Alamo, an old Spanish mission in San Antonio, was a rough fort where about 200 Texans, Anglo settlers, Tejanos, and American volunteers, stood ready to defend their dream of a free Texas. Mexico's president, Antonio Lopez de Santa Anna, wanted to stop this rebellion. By late February, his army of over 2,000 soldiers marched toward San Antonio, ready to attack. Led by William B. Travis and James Bowie, the Texans at the Alamo knew danger was coming. On February 23, 1836, a scout named Albert Martin rode into San Antonio with bad news. Mexican troops had crossed the Rio Grande and were heading their way. The Alamo's defenders, about 150 men, included Texan soldiers, volunteers, and Tejanos, like Juan Seguin's 25-man group. The Alamo was a big mission with thick adobe walls, 9 to 12 feet high, but it wasn't built for war. Its size made it hard to defend with so few people. Travis, a 26-year-old leader, and Bowie, a 40-year-old frontiersman sick with fever, sent messengers to nearby towns like Goliad and Gonzales, begging for help. They knew their small group couldn't hold out alone. That afternoon, around 2 p.m., Santa Anna's army arrived. Over 1,800 Mexican soldiers, with more on the way, raised a red flag that meant no mercy. The Texans, along with families like Susanna Dickinson and her baby daughter Angelina, plus an enslaved man named Joe, moved inside the Alamo's walls. Santa Anna, a bold leader who called himself the Napoleon of the West, had marched his army 150 miles in just over a week. His troops set up camp near the San Antonio River, blocking the Texans' water and food supplies. As Mexican campfires glowed in the distance, the Texans felt fear growing, knowing they were trapped. The next day, February 24th, Mexican cannons started firing. 2 8-pounders and a howitzer pounded the Alamo, but the thick walls held up. The Texans fired back with their 21 cannons, including a big 18-pounder, but they didn't have much ammunition. Travis wrote a famous letter that day saying,
"I am besieged by 1,000 or more Mexicans. I will never surrender."
He sent it to Gonzales, hoping for help. Bowie was too sick to lead, so Travis took charge, organizing the men to guard the walls and fix damage from cannonballs. Every night, the Texans watched the Mexican army get closer, their hearts racing. For days, the siege dragged on. Mexican soldiers dug trenches near the Alamo, creeping closer under the stars. The Texans, led by Davy Crockett, a 49-year-old from Tennessee, shot at them from the walls. Crockett's long rifles could hit targets 200 yards away, much farther than the Mexican muskets. But Santa Anna's army grew to over 2,000 men. His band played a scary song called El Degüello, which meant no one would be spared. The Texans had little food, only corn and tough beef, and almost no water after the Mexicans cut off their supply. On March 1st, 32 men from Gonzales, led by George C. Kimball, sneaked into the Alamo at night, bringing the total defenders to about 200. Crockett, with his big smile and stories, cheered everyone up. The group included Tejanos like Gregorio Esparza and Jose Toribio Lozoya, plus volunteers from places like Kentucky. But they knew more help wasn't coming. On March 3rd, Travis sent another message, saying they'd fight to the death without aid. A nearby group of 400 Texans at Goliad didn't come, leaving the Alamo alone. By March 5th, Santa Anna was ready to attack. He split his army into 4 groups of about 1,400 men, led by generals like Martin Perfecto de Cos, with 400 cavalry to stop anyone escaping. The attack was planned for early March 6th, when the Texans would be tired after 12 days of no sleep. That night, Travis gathered the men. Some say he drew a line in the sand, asking who would stay and fight. Everyone but one man, Moses Rose, chose to stay. The Texans went to their posts, waiting in the dark, their stomachs tight with fear. At 5 a.m. on March 6, Mexican troops attacked. They moved quietly, carrying ladders to climb the walls. The Texans were startled awake by the sound of El Revuelo. The north wall, damaged by cannons, broke first. Mexican soldiers rushed in, and the Texans fought hard. Crockett's men shot from a low fence near the chapel, killing many with their rifles. Artillery Captain Alamo Dickinson fired his big cannon, but there were too many Mexicans. The fight turned into close combat, with knives and club rifles against bayonets. In about 90 minutes, it was over. Travis was shot early on the north wall. Bowie, too sick to move, was killed in his bed. Crockett's end is unclear. Some say he died fighting. Others say he was captured and executed. All 182 to 257 Texans died. Santa Anna's army lost 400 to 600 men, a big loss for them. The Mexicans burned the dead Texans in piles, leaving only ashes. Santa Anna let Susanna Dickinson, her daughter, and Joe go free to tell others about the defeat. The Alamo's fall was meant to scare the Texans, but it made them angry. Susanna Dickinson told her story in Gonzales, and "Remember the Alamo" became a battle cry. On April 21, 1836, Texan leader Sam Houston beat Santa Anna at San Jacinto, winning Texas's freedom. The Alamo is now a famous site visited by millions, where people honor the brave defenders.
Adobe, a type of clay used to make sun-dried bricks for building. The house was built with adobe bricks that kept it cool in the desert heat. Artillery, large weapons like cannons used in war. The army brought artillery to break down the fort's walls. Bayonet, a blade attached to a rifle for close fighting. The soldier fixed a bayonet to his musket before charging. Besieged, surrounded and attacked by an enemy. The town was besieged by soldiers for weeks, with no way out. Coonskin, a hat or item made from raccoon fur. He wore a coonskin cap like the frontiersmen of old. Frontiersman, a person living on the edge of settled land. The frontiersmen hunted and explored the wild lands. Musket, an old type of long gun used by soldiers. He aimed his musket carefully at the distant target. Ramparts, defensive walls or embankments of a fort. The defenders stood on the ramparts watching for the enemy.